Hey everybody, it's the Song Man checking in back in. It's been kind of a crazy week. I just want to kind of touch base on some things that just uh, I saw this week that just made me shake my head and wonder what's going on. First of all, of course, the whole week has been spent, big week on the impeachment. Democrats have been in the Senate uh, making their case, which basically has been reminded me of that kid song that we used to sing. This is a song that never ends, and it goes on and on, my friends. It's just the same, or even an old, just made me think of an old RBN song. It's the same old song. It's just a different tune since we went wrong. It's the same old song. It's just the same old thing. That they hashed out. The only difference is right now with the Congress and the Senate is that at this point now Schiff and Nadler can just get up there and rattle off without any witnesses, without Republicans being able to cross-examine the witnesses. So it's just basically, here's what our case is, and regardless of what actually came out in the congressional hearings, they're still just telling their side. They don't cover, where the one guy said, President Trump said, "I don't want a quid pro quo. This is not what I'm looking at for." And he's just, where Trump said he was just looking out for us, the United States. It's not about him personally, but none of that's coming out in this. It's just Schumer and Nadler, and then some of the crap that's coming out of not Schumer, things that's coming out of Schiff's mouth and Nadler's about how we're not going to be able to trust the next election, that we have to get rid of Donald Trump now because if he wins again, we can't trust the next election. Listen, I know thousands of Trump supporters and Trump people who voted for Donald Trump didn't vote for Donald Trump because of anything some Russian ad or whatever they took out. That's the extent of the Russian collusion or the Russian interference in the election, was that some hackers put out maybe about 400 ads or 400 memes or posts on social media. It wasn't they changed votes in certain cities and towns. It all had to do with propaganda. And I don't know anybody that believed any of the propaganda that was going around. But here we are, still facing this, and I can tell you what's really at the heart of the matter. I saw a tweet this morning that what's at the heart of the matter for the Congress and the Democrats is that what's at stake is their money trade. You follow the money. It's all about the money, 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 money. Or as Pink Floyd says, "Hey, money, it's mine, Jack. Keep your hands off of my stack." And that's what's happening right now. Is Trump is exposing. He knows. I saw a tweet this morning about the money trade, and that Trump knows, and he's seeing how the money flows. And foreign aid has really for years been a moneymaker for Democrat senators and congressmen and members of their family. If you just look to see how many senators and how many family members are actually on boards of foreign governments and foreign businesses, and you'll trace the money back. It's not just Democrats, it's Republicans too. And that's what makes some of them sit on the fence about not take a hard stance against what Congress is doing right now, because they don't want to be exposed in this web either that Trump is exposing. I mean, he's been a Democrat for years, been supporting these Democrat congressmen and stuff, and he's been a businessman, done business all over the world. He knows how the game is played, and now he's at this time of his life, he's like exposing. Yeah, he played the game. He knew he's done some deals, and but it's wrong for a government to be trading in government secrets and government acquisitions. How do you think all these senators get so stinking rich on a payment of $173,000 a year? How they're living in billionaire mansions and all this kind of stuff, and how they're making these great sweet deals. So what's really happening is not the impeachment of Donald Trump is not about trying to elicit foreign aid against a political opponent. I don't even think Joe Biden was actually had what do you call it, had announced yet by the time this little Ukraine incident took place. It's a little chilly out here. I'm going to take a little walk inside. The other thing this week that has caught my eye was the Veritas, Project Veritas, and the exposure of what is happening with Bernie Sanders' campaign staffers and some of the stuff that they're sharing in these undercover videos basically lends itself to the idea that we've been saying about socialism and communism being tied closely. Not dragging Bernie Sanders and saying this is stuff that he actually condones, but the people who are running his campaign or staffing his campaign in these different states, this is stuff that they are literally thinking about and what they want. And these kids are not only socialists as far as wanting health care and all that kind of stuff, they're actually talking about putting our problems would be solved in the United States and in the world if we could just put Republicans, load them up on trains and put them in gulags and re-education camps. We don't need this kind of it would solve the world's problems. We just need to do away with Republicans. We need to go back to just one. We all have one thought. We're all unified, and we're working toward this. Any counter thoughts? Anything that you think about free market as opposed to the workers? You know, it's real communism, and they say, some of them say, we are communists. We think the communist way is the right way, and of course, the theory has always been that Stalin, all them guys, you know, the premise sounds good about workers and even pay around but the actuality of that is that communist countries have turned into, you know, just terrible murderers, just like they were saying about taking off Republicans. Any kind of thought, counter thought, any kind of just like with speech, any kind of thing that goes against SJWs. Joe Rogan coming under fire. Joe Rogan coming under fire for being for supporting Bernie, and Bernie coming under fire for letting Joe Rogan endorse him because Joe Rogan has conservative people. He listens to people. He talks to people. He has conversations. That's not allowed in this era. You can't talk to anybody who's a Republican or conservative, anybody who's not buying into this socialist stuff. They're not allowed to have a voice. They're all Nazi, racist, you know. And when's that going to stop? When is that going to stop? It's just driving me crazy. This morning I got up woke up, and the thing that's really driving me crazy now is this Wuhan virus, this corona virus that's going on in China. Some pretty scary stuff. There are a lot of people believe that they're hiding the actual numbers. And what's crazy is I'm finding out a lot of this stuff I'm sharing with you is not stuff that's been readily available on mainstream media. They don't cover anything but the impeachment or anything to do. All their stories have to do with Trump and with this hearing that's going on. They might give a brief mention. Now there's some of it. I see some actual journalism going on with some CBS reporters and things like that. But CNN, MSNBC, they're not covering this stuff. But in China right now, this outbreak of this virus, I've seen videos on Twitter that of people just collapsing while they're waiting in line at the hospitals. Halls in hospitals just filled with bodies of people being sick with this. Now they're saying there's only, you know, they've diagnosed quite a few, but they're only reporting like maybe 100 deaths, but the number I predict is much higher from what I'm seeing and reports I'm reading on Twitter. If you really want to get real news, you got to go to the international sources and some of these online sources. I know the mainstream wants to point at these things and say they're bots or that's fake news. But the only way you can really get a feel for what's really happening, not only in the world, but in United States politics, is there's a lot more journalism going on in these other news sources, even OAN or listening to some people on YouTube. But I'm finding more reliable sources on Twitter with some of these outlets more than I am on TV, on cable news networks. It's ridiculous. They're bought and paid for by corporate. So, if there's corporate advertising or big banks or anything like that, you got to stay away from that because they're just purely political. And like I said, I listen to a lot of different voices. But back to China. I'm ranting again. This disease. I saw a report this morning that there was a couple of scientists in Canada at one of their high-level disease labs that have been studying and working on this coronavirus and the effects of it, and they've been working on it. And sometime back in July, that there was a report that these people were evacuated, that they were let out of the hauled out of the lab because they had sent these lethal pathogens of the coronavirus to China. Don't know if they were sending it to some university there to be studied, but back in July this happened, and just now, and all of a sudden now you have this outbreak. They try to say it's people eating bats, people eating snakes. We don't know. It might be a weaponized pathogen. But what's crazy is like you go from it as it hits hard and fast. It's like, and what's crazy is this is the middle of the flu season for us. And there may be three possible cases here in the United States already, in Washington State, in Texas, and then I just heard about a possible one in North Carolina. So what is happening? What is happening in the world? Just keep your eyes and ears open, man. Is it biblical? Is this part of the bowls in Scripture being poured out? Is this, or is this just crazy stuff that's just happening? So, hey, I'm keeping my ear to the ground and listening and watching, and I suggest you do it too. Songman out.